If you believe the headlines, you'd think Australia is drowning in firearm violence. Every news cycle, every press conference, and every single politician. That's the story. Same crisis, epidemic danger. But here is actually the thing. The facts don't actually back that story. So let's just wool up a little bit and let's have a look at the numbers, because the numbers don't care about the headlines. In the early 1980s, firearm deaths in Australia sat just over 600 per year. By 2020, less than 200 a year. That's not a blip. That's not a random chance. That's, well, a long, steady decline across 4 decades. We're not talking about small changes here. We're talking about a drop more than 60%. Now, if you've only listened to the media, you would think firearm deaths must be going up. You must think the streets are more dangerous than ever, and you'd think that we're on the edge of collapse. Now, obviously, we're in a youth crime crisis, which is a completely different thing. We're talking about firearm-related incidents. But the truth is the actual opposite. Australia today is safer than it has ever been in the modern history when it comes to firearms. So why did this actually happen? It wasn't just one law, it wasn't just one event, and it wasn't one politician. It was a mix of complex real-world changes, better suicide prevention programs, falling violent crime rates across developed countries, and advances in trauma medicine and emergency response. And yes, a culture of safe firearm use passed down and enforced by shooters themselves. So when you actually zoom out and look at the long-term trends, the story is very clear. Firearm deaths have been falling for decades. But here is the question. If that was true, why don't you ever hear about it? Because the facts don't win headlines. Fear, well, that does. The media and politicians know something simple. If you show people the long decline, well, they relax. They feel safe. They stop demanding action. But if you zoom in on the spike, a tragedy, a single event, suddenly you've got outrage. You've got fear. You've got people begging for someone to do something. That's why every time there's an incident, their spotlight isn't on the 40-year decline. It's on the one-day spike. That's how you build the illusion of a crisis in a country that is safer than ever. And here's the trick. They never ever talk about it, who's actually involved. Licensed shooters are lumped in with criminals. Sportsmen are lumped in with gangs, and collectors are lumped in with smugglers. It's lazy, it's dishonest, but hey, it works. Because fear always beats the nuance in the headlines. And this is where the illusion doesn't just twist the truth. It hurts people. It drives policy that punishes the safe and ignores the unsafe. It convinces ordinary Australians that their neighbour with a locked safe is somehow more dangerous than a gang running with pistols through Sydney. That's the illusion. And it only works if people never actually ever see the bigger picture. Before we move on, I just need to be really upfront with everybody. This channel has no sponsors at all. No one, absolutely no one pulling the strings in the background. It's powered only by you, ordinary Australians who care about the truth and fairness. So if you want to help me keep cutting through all the noise and exposing these illusions and bringing awareness to these matters, make sure you hit that subscribe button, become a channel member right here on YouTube, join Patreon as well, and of course, check out the merchandise. Wear it loud and proudly. I've got mugs and stickers and shirts as well. Or, as always, you can always shout me a coffee through Buy Me a Coffee. All the links are down below in the description. Thank you so much for the support. All right, let's keep going. Now let's talk about credit. If you listen to Canberra, you'd think safety arrived overnight with one stroke of the pen in 1996. But that's the political fairy tale. The real champions of safety weren't politicians, they were ordinary Australians, especially licensed firearm shooters. Think about it. Farmers teaching their kids the respect for tools, hunting enforcing discipline in the bush, clubs drilling safety rules that were non-negotiable, mates checking in on each other's mental health for long before anything was fashionable. Accidents fell because shooters enforced cultural responsibility. Suicides dropped because communities started facing mental health head-on, and deaths declined because ordinary people changed habits, shared wisdom, and looked after each other. And yet, those same people, the ones who built the safety of culture, kept getting blamed. That's the insult. The champions of safety are always painted as villains, while the system built on fear pretends to take the credit. Now let's just zoom out again. Why does this keep happening? Why, no matter how safe shooters prove themselves to be, does the system never give them credit? Because it was never designed to. Politicians are rewarded for fear, not honesty. If deaths are falling, they lose urgency, power, and the chance to do something. Media outlets sell outrage, not calm. A long-term decline doesn't sell. a dramatic story does. Bureaucrats measure success by activity, not the outcomes, and more forms, more inspections, and more restrictions. That, that is what justifies their budget and their growth. So the architecture of a system is built around one goal, keeping the illusion alive. That's why 1996 became, well, the story. Even though the deaths have already been falling for a decade, it fits the blueprint. Politicians got credit, media got drama, and bureaucrats got, well, new powers. And once that worked, they locked it in. Every new incident has become fuel for the same cycle. But here's the cost: a culture of permanent suspicion. Shooters never ever celebrated, always blamed. Rights slowly eroded, never ever restored. And the truth buried underneath a mountain of spin. So let's just drop the politics for a moment and put this in really plain language. If you're a parent or a neighbor, here's what actually really matters to you. Your family is safer today than 40 years ago when it comes to firearms. That is the reality. If you don't own a gun, here's what you should know. The bloke down the road with a locked safe, a clean record, is not the problem. He's part of the reason why you're safer, because licensed shooters live discipline every single day. If you do own a gun, here's what you should remember. You are not crazy to feel blamed. The system was built to treat you that way. But the numbers prove that you're one of the safest, most law-abiding groups in the country. So when somebody says guns are the crisis, the simpler answer is, this. Deaths are down. Safety is up. Shooters aren't the problem. That's the message anybody can understand if they're willing to listen. Now comes the choice. Do we keep silent and let the illusion grow stronger? Or do we speak up and share the truth and demand honesty in the public square? Because the decline is real, the culture of safety is real, and the illusion that shooters are the problem only stands if we let it. So let's not let it. Speak the truth, share the facts, and never ever apologize for being part of one of the most safest groups in Australia, the most disciplined communities in this country. And if you believe this message matters, don't just nod along. Hit the subscribe button, share this video, and support the channel. This channel is powered by ordinary Australians who care about the truth and freedom and fairness. The politicians don't get the final note. The media doesn't get the final note as well. The bureaucrats don't get the final note also. In this symphony, the final note belongs to us.